Hello everybody, glad you guys are back. Hope you guys are doing well. And today we're going to be doing some more math with fractions, so let's get right into it. So today we will learn how to convert a pair of fractions to have a common denominator. And if you remember from previous lessons, the denominator is the bottom number of a fraction. So if we have 1/4, the denominator would be 4. If we had 1/3, the denominator would be 3. And remember, the numerator is the top number. So the numerator for both of these fractions would be 1. So if we're looking for a common denominator, we want the denominator for both of these fractions to be the same. So right now they're different. The denominator for 1/4 is 4, and the denominator for 1/3 is 3, but we want them to be the same number. So we're going to learn how to do that, and I'll show you an example on the next slide. So let's say we do actually have 1/4 and 1/3. How are we going to make our denominators, the bottom numbers, be the same number? So how are we going to make the 4 and the 3 of 1/4 and 1/3 be the same number? Well, we need to find the multiples of 3 and 4. So if we have 3, what's the first multiple of 3, or 1 times 3? It would be 3. What is 2 times 3? It would be 6. 3 times 3? It would be 9. 4 times 3 would be 12. 5 times 3 be 15. And we'll stop there for now. So now we will find the multiples of 4. So what is 1 times 4? 4. What is 2 times 4? 8. What is 3 times 4? 12. And we can actually stop right here, because we are looking for a common multiple of 3 and 4. And if you look right here, we have a 12 for 4 and a 12 for 3. And this would be considered the LCM of 3 and 4, or lowest common multiple. So if we multiply 3 by 4, it equals 12. And if we multiply 4 by 3, it equals 12. But now remember, if we multiply the bottom by something, we also have to multiply the top, our numerator, by the same number. So 1 times 3 would equal 3. 1 times 4 over here would equal 4. So our new fractions that have a common denominator are 3/12 and 4/12. And that's how we get a common denominator, by finding the least common multiple. And don't worry, we're going to be doing another example. I know this can be hard to grasp at first, but just stick with it, guys, and you guys will be masters at it at no time. So for this example, let's say we have 7/10 and 1/2. And we want to make our denominators the same. We want to have a common denominator. Well, something we could do is just multiply both sides by the other denominator, right? So we could take 2 times 10 and 10 times 2. And this would give us 10 for the numerator up here, 20 for the denominator. 2 times 7 would be 14, and 2 times 10 would be 20. And see, if you look right here, we have a 20 and a 20, which is a common denominator, but it's not the lowest common denominator, or LCD. And we want it to be the LCD, or lowest common denominator, because it's going to be a lot easier to work with in problems in the future. So let's erase all of that, and let's find the LCD, or the lowest common denominator. So we're going to do that by listing out the multiples of 2, kind of like we did in the previous example. So 2 times 1 is 2, 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 3 is 6, 2 times 4 is 8, 2 times 5 is 10, and we can actually stop right here, because our 10 here and our 10 here match up. And this is because, sorry, my pen messed up there for a second. 10 times 1 is 10. So we have matching 10s. And this is called an LCM, lowest common multiple. So 2 times 5 is 10. And whatever we do to the denominator, we also need to do to the numerator, the top number. 1 times 5 is 5. And then remember, we just times these by 1, because 1 times 10 is 10, and 10 is our lowest common multiple, and so this fraction actually just stays the same. So you don't even need to worry about multiplying it by 1. It just stays the same. So our fractions that have a common denominator, and remember it is our lowest common denominator, is 7/10 and 5/10. So this is how we find our lowest common denominator. For 7/10 and 1/2, we changed it to 7/10 and 5/10, so that the denominators on the bottom were the same. They were both 10s. And we did this by finding the lowest common multiple of 2 and 10. So I hope that makes sense, guys. If you're having trouble understanding, don't worry. We're going to do more practice, and we're going to keep going through problems like this. So just keep with it, and you will continue to improve. And we're actually going to do some practice problems on the next slide to get you guys more comfortable with it. Okay, so I want you guys to take out a piece of paper, write down these fractions, and convert them so that they have the lowest common denominator. So pause the video right here, and then we'll come back together and review them. Okay, so we're back. We have 2/3 and 4/7. So if we listed out the multiples of 7 and 3, we would have found that the lowest common denominator would have been 21, which would have been 7 times 3 equals 21, and 3 times 7 equals 21. Remember, whatever we do to the bottom number, our denominator, we also have to do to our numerator, the top number. So 4 times 3 equals 12, and 2 times 7 equals 14. So these are our fractions with the lowest common denominator, and yeah, we will move on to the next one of 1/12 and 3/4. So you could have listed out the multiples of 12 and 4. However, you could have realized that 4 times 3 equals 12. And the very first multiple of 12 is 12. So we can actually leave 1/12 alone, because 12 is already our lowest common denominator. So 4 times 3 equals 12. We also need to change our numerator. So 3 times 3 equals, oops, having trouble with my pen, 9. 9/12. So we have 1/12 and 9/12. Okay, last one, we have 4/5 and 1/2. And our lowest common denominator would be 10. And we would have got that by taking 5 times 2 right there, and 2 times 5 equals 10. We also need to multiply our top numbers, our numerator, by the same number. 1 times 5 equals 5, and then 4 times 2. So 5 times 2, 10, 4 times 2, 8. Now we have our fractions of 5/10 and 8/10 with our lowest common denominators of 10 and 10. So hopefully this is what you guys got. If you didn't though, don't worry about it. Finding the lowest common denominator and doing least common multiples of numbers can be tricky at first, putting all the pieces together, but don't worry, with more practice you guys are going to be masters in no time. And great job doing the work today, and just continue working hard and you guys will continue to improve and improve. So today we learned how to convert a pair of fractions to have a common denominator. And we did this by finding the lowest common multiple. And doing this can take a lot of practice. It can be tricky at first, but don't worry. In no time you guys will get the hang of it and you guys will be masters. So good job today, guys. You guys are really, really awesome, and just keep at it. And I will see you guys in the next lesson.